Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's the Central Florida Computer Society Windows Special Interest Group, or the WinSIG, for April 10th, 2016. I'm Hewie Poplock with a somewhat hoarse voice, so I apologize. I'll have to take a swig of water every once in a while. It should be vodka, but it's just plain old water. And occasionally I'll mute the mic to cough, and hopefully I don't do it into the mic. Okay, we're off and running for today, and I've got several items we're going to cover. If I can change the screen here for you, just give me a moment. And I want to share my screen, and we'll see what's on here. And there we go. Make sure I'm in the right program here. I am. And I'm going to make this a little bit of a full screen it and make it a little larger so you can see the notes. Now, as most of you know, if you've been here before, the Windows SIG has its own location on my website, which is Hewie's Views and Reviews, which is hewie.net. And it's under WinSIG. Whoops. Under WinSIG. And then our meeting notes, I got it too large here. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Going back to 2008. And if we go to the meeting notes for 2016, you'll see currently there's today's. And when I click on it, there are the notes for today. And these are all links for today's show and today's meeting. And I'm going to start out with Vivaldi. And it says Vivaldi 1.0 goes final. And what Vivaldi is, it's a new browser. Now, I use Firefox as my default browser, only because I don't like some of the things in Internet Explorer. Windows Edge, which is the Windows browser for Windows 10, is not complete and does not support Evernote and does not support plugins yet. It will, but it doesn't yet. Of course, it's been out since, let me dismiss this. I was hoping that would get shut off, but it didn't. The browsers, it keeps coming up for, these things didn't come up earlier. Anyway, Vivaldi was developed by a couple of fellows that used to work for Opera or were part of the Opera group, but it's based on Chrome. But it really looks pretty good right out of the box. Where Microsoft Edge has been out now since July, and they had it in beta for quite a while before then, and yet they still don't even have the plugins. Where Vivaldi is pretty good. So I'm going to minimize this, and you should see nothing on my screen right now, and I'm going to open up Vivaldi. I've preset it up. When you first start it, it does come up and ask you about 5 screenfuls of just a couple of questions per screenful, or one, to help with the setup. Let me move it over a little bit so you can see all of it. And let me close this. And you'll see several things that it looks like a browser. I've got some tabs open at the top. As I move my mouse across them, you'll see it gives a larger screen because there's nothing on some of them. It hasn't been to them yet. And then there is a tab over here on the left with at the bottom the settings, and there's some things there. Then you've got the Vivaldi menu at the top, but there's no other menu, but I'll show you that in just a moment. And then down on the lower right, you've got the page tiling. You've got, you can toggle images. You can turn all the images off so it works faster. And then you also have your sizing with a slide bar at the bottom. Right now it's at 100%. We're going to increase that in just a moment. So again, let's go back to Hewie's Views and Reviews. And there it is. And so as I move the size button, I'm going to move it up to around 170. You know, I think that's a little bit too much. So we'll move it back down to about 140, and should be able to see it now. Uh, and if I go to CFCS.org, I can do the same thing. Well, it goes back to 100% for that one, so I guess it's screen specific. We'll make that 160%, and now it's much larger. So it's very easy to resize. Of course, you've got the control plus and control minus that you can do in any of the browsers, but this is just nice and handy being on the page. Now, you'll also notice down here there's a box for showing the panel. So you don't want that panel to show, you can turn it off, turn it back on. And you can also here, you can have some notes. So if we open this, you can actually get a whole section here where you can actually be writing notes, uh, looking up information, putting things in trash, and so on. So there's a section there. You can see what any downloads you've done, and then you can add another panel if you wanted to, or you can just close that down like that. Now, if you don't like this over on this side, what we can do is we can go into the settings, and you can do all kinds of things with the settings. You've got a whole list of items that you can change and set up for yourself if you don't like the defaults, and then you can just do a display all, and it's all one great big screen. But right now we'll just do, like for instance, startup. You can set it as a default, which I don't have it. You can set your home page to be whatever you want. I have it instead of one particular page, I have some pages, so it opens up tabs when it does. And so the one thing I don't like is at this point, you can't change the order of those. So you have to install them in the order that you want them to appear. I would imagine eventually they will change that so you can move them up and down. You can have it start up with the last session, your home page, and so on. Hang on one second. Let me. Okay, and then you can change. There's actually several languages you can have this in too. Under Appearance, now you watch the screen as I change that so you can have the tabs at the top either dark or you can have them at light. You can show the user interface. You can use animation. You can show the status bar at the bottom. You can show it as an overlay, or you can even hide it or have it show. I like to have the status bar at the bottom showing. You can use a native window, open settings in a tab. You can use a theme color and the unit and so on. So there's some things you can do. You can have a horizontal menu. So instead of it being a drop down, you'll see the menu like that. Or if you have the Vivaldi button, and then the Vivaldi button is here, and you'll see that you have all of the same items that way. I kind of like it the other way, to be honest with you. And we lost our settings, so we'll come back here. And so I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it to the horizontal right now. And you can show a full screen reminder. And then you can have your start page. You can have different settings and backgrounds and so on. You can have your tabs. There's different. You can have them on the top like I've got them. You can move them over to the left. You can move them to the right and move them to the bottom. So whatever you're comfortable with. And then you can, if the new tab position can always be left on the left, or I'm sorry, on on the right being the last one. It can be next to the related tab or next to tab. And when closing a tab, you can activate the next related tab or activate the previous in the activation order. So there's some things that you can do with the tabs and some features and so on. I'm not going to go through every one of these. On the panel, you can change the panel to the left from the left side over to the right side. And you can actually show a panel toggle as well, which gives you a little teeny arrow here and If I can get my mouse centered on here, come on. Well, never mind. And I forgot the settings is now over here instead of on that side. Bring it back and we'll move it. We're not going to show the panel toggle. That's that little arrow to the very, very right, and you can close down the panel or open it. Uh, and then the keyboard, you can do some things with it, change some of the keyboard strokes, and your mouse, you can have it do certain things. So there's a lot of setup that you can do within the program, which I like. Probably should have moved this back over, but anyway, that's Vivaldi. I'm impressed with it. It works very well. And why don't you try to use it? Take a look at it. You have to download it, install. There's a Mac version and a Linux version, I believe. Uh, so worth a try, worth a take a look at. So let's take and see what's next on our schedule. Okay, this past week I was helping a couple of my neighbors, and then I also had an issue come up, and so I want to talk a little bit about hiding specific updates from Windows 10. What happened was one of my neighbors has a Windows 10 driver that keeps trying to install every day, and it fails. And so it tries the next day, and it keeps trying, but it's for a printer, and it's a printer driver they don't need. And so I remember in earlier versions of Windows, you could, in the update, you could just tell it to hide any of the updates, and they no longer show. Windows 10 is not quite as easy. So this article, and let's make it larger. I don't want it 300%. 160. Let's see what we got. There we go. How to hide specific updates. And there's actually a tool that Microsoft has available. It is not built into Windows. So a Windows 10 Home Edition is the only version it's required to perform updates automatically in the background. And Windows 10 Pro and Enterprise, you can defer your updates. But if you're running Windows 10 Home Edition, the updates flow down from Microsoft and automatically install. There's nothing else you need to do. However, if you want to hide a specific update from the updating mechanism, you can do so by going to this website from the link that I provided on the page. And what you do is when you do it, let's see, it's not showing. It actually gives you a download, and then you run it. It's a cab file. Why isn't it showing? Okay, this article is not showing it. I thought it did. But let's go here, and I think this will show it. And yeah, it was within the article, and it tells you how to go about doing it. And when you get the file, you're going to download or save it. I would save it and then run it. But notice it's the WU show hide.diagcab. It's a cab file, and so it's compressed and it will run. So and then you go back after you've downloaded it, run it. When you launch it, it's a troubleshooter, and you click next and follow the instructions provided by the troubleshooter, and it'll actually then allow you to hide that particular update. Now, I ran into a problem, and I used it the same way, and the problem I ran into, and let's we can close this up, and we're going to close this. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to minimize the screen, and I'm going to go into my Windows settings. and I'm going to go into update and security. Hopefully you can see this, because I can't make it larger. I don't think. Let's see if I can do a Control Plus. It doesn't work on this. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to show you how you can see what updates have been going in, and I'll show you what the problem I had is by under Windows Update, under Update and Security, Windows Update, and Advanced Options, you want to do to view your update history. When you click that, you'll see all of the things that either updated successfully or failed. You can see here one of them failed to install on 323. And then it was successful on the 24th, and you'll see that it was successful almost every day since that date until the 8th. And it was on the 8th that I went in and turned off or told it to hide that update so it no longer is trying to update it. Why it got stuck, I don't know, but what I did is I copied the KB file name and went ahead and did a search and found that this was a problem with this particular one, and it told me that I should hide it, and that would stop it from trying to install again. And so I was able to do that. So that's another way to, you can view your history that way, but you can also take a look at problems you're having and check and see if everything is being installed as you need. Now, something else I want to show you, as long as we're in settings, let's go back to the settings. I see there's somebody that's left a question, and see if I can bring that up. Okay, no, okay. Somebody just commented on something I answered. All right. And I didn't want to do that, but okay. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that you're running the latest version of Windows, which was the November 2015 update, which was a major update. And it did install on my laptop, and it did install on my Surface. It never installed on this computer, and I had to do it manually, and I did it in the last 2 weeks. And to check to see if it had done it, I went in and under About, I want to make sure that the version is 1511, which means it was November of 2015 is when it came out. And then the latest build, the numbers may not be quite the same, but just make sure that at least the 1511 is the version that you're running. If not, you may have to do it manually like I did. Okay, let's close that back out and bring up Vivaldi again. And I'm going to make this a little bit larger. And so that was how to get the specific updates. Now, and then the next one was what I just talked about, was preventing the Windows or driver update from reinstalling. And again, that's going to be the article I just showed you. And it tells you exactly how to do it here. So we'll close that out. Come back here. Okay, the next issue that some of my neighbors and friends have run into, if you use Facebook, you may occasionally have somebody who is already a friend of yours ask to be a friend again. And it's a different account, because if you check the account that you've been seeing their information in, you're already a friend, but now they're asking to be a friend again. What's happening is something called cloning. A lot of people think that it's an issue of their Facebook account got hacked, but it's not. It's not that they've been hacked. It's that someone or something, in other words, a robot of some sort, somebody's program, has been able to go in and take your Facebook account and clone it or copy it. In other words, the pictures are the same, but there's no information there. It's just maybe the header picture or the one picture of the person may or may not be there. One of my friends, even the name was misspelled, but generally it'll even be spelled the same. They've actually opened a second account and made it look like your Facebook, your Facebook account, and then took your list of friends, which they were able to see on your Facebook account, and brought up each of them and sent them a notice to friend them. And there's a whole article on this, and I've got links to that. And then the fake profiles and pages, the tools of scammers, bullies, and thieves, and what do they do it. And then I also have at the bottom of this is how do you report it. And this is the Facebook page, and I'll bring it up a little bit larger so you can read it. They tell you go to the imposter profile, click on the little dots up in the corner on the cover photo, and select report, and then follow the on-screen instructions. If you don't have a Facebook account, you can report the imposter account by filling out this form. So in other words, if you don't even have a Facebook account and someone's trying to create one for you, what you want to do is fill out that form and you can report it. And if you've lost access to an account you've created, learn how to recover or secure your account. There's a link there. And if you see
Hewie,
yes, question.
I'm totally baffled. What is the benefit for anyone to do this, and why do they want your friends on this fake account?
Okay, let's go back and
Makes
look at
no
that
sense to
article.
me.
Yeah, and I'll try to explain it if the article doesn't. I think it does.
Thank you.
If it doesn't, I will talk about it a little bit more, or I'll talk about it as we see it here. Okay, once this part of the mission is complete, the scammer has a variety of options at their disposal. So these are some of the reasons they've done that. They can data mine the accounts they have friended under the bogus profile. Even if you have your privacy and sharing options to friends only, you are still at risk if you accidentally accept a duplicate friend request. So sometimes you can set your Facebook to be friends only for certain information, but now you've friended somebody who is trying to data mine, in other words, get information from you, and now you've opened up your account to someone you really don't want to have that information go to. And they can gather enough information and target close friends and family members with something called the grandma scam. The scammer contacts people close to the victim and tells them that they are in trouble of some kind, usually stranded on vacation, arrested, and standing. I think you had an instance of that a couple of years ago, arrested or some other legal trouble. And then this is accompanied by an urgent plea to send money ASAP via Western Union. They've got enough information that they can fake that. Another thing would be under spam, a spam scam links to everyone in their friends list. This is common social engineering tactic used by online fraudsters. The goal is to use the trust of the victim's social circle to make the scam more believable. We've seen scam messages promoting diet pills, free gift cards, and pleas, directing people to check out photos and videos, and those are only a few samples. Unknown con artists aren't the only ones creating duplicate profiles in pages. Bullies often create fake profiles with the intention of humiliating or harassing their intended victim. If this happens to you, then we encourage you to report the incident to Facebook. Either way, if somebody opens up an account, you want to report it to Facebook as well. But in the bullying, you can also contact your local law enforcement authorities. Most places have laws against online harassment and bullying. And then the article goes on with some precautions you can take. So you don't want to friend these people because now they can get all of the information that you post or your friends post, and so they can start accumulating. Oh, let's see, today's my son's 32nd birthday. Now they know that who you're, and if you put their name in, especially you know, they have your son's name and his date of birth automatically from what you posted. And it's somebody you don't want to have that kind of information. So you want to watch your privacy things, settings, and this article goes on and talks about that as well. So that article comes from, let's see, it comes from how do I report and then the fake profiles and pages. So the links are there to get to that information of what you need to do to protect yourself. If it happens to you, what you do to fix it. And then also in the article, in this article, let me go to it. Let's see, is it this one? Yeah. This one also, let me make it bigger, has a couple of examples of some messages that you can post. And I have told a couple of people just this past week they need to post this on their Facebook page and also send it out to their email friends. And these were a couple of the examples of notifying people. Don't friend any of those people and unfriend them if you already have. And so those are just some samples of something that you should post, but you need to let your friends know that your account has been cloned and not to accept friendship from that account. Stan, I hope that answers your question. And let's see.
Yes, it does, but Ted has one.
Okay.
Hewie, I have a question for you. Over the past couple of weeks, I've received an email that supposedly came from me. And it just has an article in it, but I sure didn't send it to myself. How is that happening?
There are different ways in which they can spoof your address. Yeah, the question was he's received some emails that actually look like they come from him to him. Go ahead and mute, please, so we're not getting an echo. He's getting an email that appears that it's coming from him to him with just an email. I'm sorry, just a link to a website. Do not click that link. Anytime you get an email from someone, please mute the mic so I'm not echoing. Thank you. Anytime you get an email, it just has a link. Never, never, and I'll repeat that again twice, never, never click on that link. That link is going to take you to something that's either going to infect you, it's going to install something, it's going to have some advertising at the other end at the least. Do not click it. Don't be curious. Even if it appears that it comes from you and you didn't send it, if it comes from somebody you know, they didn't send it. That message, if it has your name on it, Ted, most likely people from your address book or somewhere else also received that same email, and it may have had your email address on it, may have had their email address on it, or may have had a third party's email address on it. Either way, what you want to do is never click on those. Do not be curious. Do not click on them. That is how most people get infected. They start getting, and it may not appear right away, and then all of a sudden they start getting pop-ups. They can't get to certain websites. It takes them to the wrong websites and so on. Now, I know your question is, how do they do that? There's so many different ways, and it has to do with programming. And if you look at that address, if you look at the information, usually you can tell that it did not come from your address. If you can get into the HTML of the message, but the point being is, why bother? You just know that it's bad. You can't do anything about it except don't click on that. And somebody said they thought it was just Yahoo, and it's not Yahoo. It can be from any address. AOL has I've gotten them from people with AOL, and I've gotten them from other people. So just don't open them. Now, some new bogus email.
Huey, said at another
Yes.
point.
Yes.
The email didn't have a link. It just had an article in the email, just like any regular email. And I forget what the articles were about now, but they didn't seem to be threatening or anything. No links to go anywhere.
That is odd. My Yahoo account 2 or 3 times a year gets hacked like this, and an email does go out, but it's always an address in there. It's one of those things you probably never know.
Email. Okay, well, just
go ahead and mute me. The question was that the email may have an article in it and may not even have a link in it. But if you open that email and it's HTML, they could have embedded in there a link that you aren't aware of. It could be a 1 by 1 pixel graphic that's linked to a website that automatically either opens up a pop-up window, embeds something in your system. So there's a lot of different tricks that they can use if you go to a website and they've embedded something in that website or in the email itself if you are opening it with HTML. That's why I use a program that I look at all my email with text first. And that's also a setting you can do in Outlook and you can do in some of the other email programs. But I use something called Mailwasher. And using Mailwasher, I can look at all of my emails as text. And I don't see any of the HTML information, any pictures, anything like that. And I can delete them from there without even opening them. And I do that to a lot of my emails. So they have so many different ways in which they can get to you. And sometimes they only send something like that to you to see if it doesn't bounce. If it doesn't bounce, then you may get something else. So sometimes it's just a test email too. So there's a lot of different ways they can use it. Okay, another is a bogus invoice that can lead to ransomware. And what ransomware is, and I had one of my neighbors run into this problem where they had clicked on something and they had ransomware and they allowed somebody to come into their computer, and we all know not to do that, but sometimes it just they're quite convincing, and they had let somebody in their computer, and then all of a sudden they couldn't get into it, and they wanted $350 to release the information. We could not log into their computer, period, at all. And what we ended up having to do was to wipe the computer and reinstall the original operating system, which was Windows 7, do all of the updates to get it to a close enough point to then be able to update again to Windows 10 and then install the programs that they needed. And so they lost all of their data that wasn't stored in the cloud, and all because they had clicked, had some ransomware, and then allowed somebody to get into their computer as well. But there was just no way. And if you paid them the $350, there's no there's no guarantee that they're even going to release it or have a way to release it to you. And that's what ransomware is. They hold it ransom. And this article talks about people are getting invoices, and it's going to execs, and it's going to companies. And this is just one of the ways in which they can get to people to get the ransomware. So it's happened in some hospitals recently. You may have read some articles about it, where they not only didn't have backups of their system, they couldn't get into it, and they couldn't get into any of their data. And this was a hospital out in California, and it was being held, and they ended up paying some money in order to get access to their data. And I'm sure there's some unemployed security and network people that used to work for that hospital or for the company that was handling their IT. Okay, let's go back to our items here. Okay, this is probably a little more detailed and involved and above the norm of what you need to know. Hang on here a second. Let me find the right spot here. Okay. Minimize this again. And this particular website's got all kinds of information they bring up. We don't want that. We want to go to PC World. There we go. Okay, what's hidden in the Windows AppData Folder? I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because it is a little bit more advanced than most. That's an advertisement. I can shut that off by just clicking there, I think. One thing I don't like about PC Magazine is they have all kinds of buttons and so on their pages, but they have some interesting and informative information. But if you're curious to what's in the app data folder on your computer, you can go in, read this article, and it explain. But what I want to highlight is this. Is I would be very cautious about moving or deleting any of these files. Doing so may break a program. So if you're the kind that's inquisitive and wants to take a look at some of this stuff, or if you're a more advanced Windows person, you want to know what's being kept where and so on, you can look at the app data and look at information there, but don't start moving it around. Don't try to do anything with it because you can actually make some programs not work and maybe even the operating system. So be careful. And I don't use the Windows Photo app. The Windows Photo app, and let me minimize this and come here and go to the photos. What this article is going to do, something just happened here. Okay, not a problem, don't send. Okay, I can take a picture. Let's go back there. Let's take this picture here. There's some different things that you can do with this. We're going to come back to this from the article that we're looking at. And let me make that larger. You can add other folders to the app. I'm not going to go through and do a lot of these, but you can import files from an external drive. You can locate photos you want quickly. You can delete, copy, share multiple photos in one go. You can play images in a folder as a slideshow, and you can enhance your photos with one click. Let's take a look at the, let's see, and there was 7 items here. You can crop, rotate, and remove red eye, and you can add filters, and you can boost your brightness, contrast, and temperature, and you can add selective focus. Let's look at what that selective focus does here. If I can remember how I saw how to do that. There's a picture. That makes it larger. And let's see, if I right mouse click, I want to edit. And it opens up my edit choices. And under effects, selective focus. And what that means is I'm going to take this, change the size. I want to highlight me. I'm going to move that here. And under the selective focus, I'm going to blur. I'm going to say the strongest. So I've blurred everything in the background, and I can even move this over a little bit more. And that blurs out. So I am the center of the focus, and then I just say OK. And now the rest of the picture is blurred. And there are certain times you want to do that and not have the other people in the picture, or have yourself stand out. And you can make it lighter, darker, and so on. So let's undo that. I'm going to leave, come back to the picture. Oops. Well, here's a good picture here, because I'm going to click the edit button, and I'm going to say I want to enhance it. Bingo, it lightens it right up, and it's now a usable picture. Turn that off, and it's a dark picture. So within the program that's built into Windows, you can do a lot. You can crop. Let's say I just want, let's see, I'm going to crop, and I can change the size. So I just want what's in the window. Why would I want to do that? I have no idea, but do that, and then just say OK. And that's what I have. I have a picture of a young lady outside and some cars on the top of my brother's head. So you can do that as well, and then you can save it or go back to the original picture. So this article has a lot of how you can and what you can do in the built-in photo program within Windows 10. And so if you've never used it and you have Windows 10, it's a program you might want to try to use and take a look at it. Next item on here that I want to show you is something called WinDirStat. And first we're going to talk about what it does, and then I'll show you where you can get it, and then I'll show you the program. WinDirStat can help you free up your storage. Let's make that larger. Come on. Still loading it, reloading it. There we go. Okay, and this article was written so you could actually make room for a game called Grand Theft Auto, but the whole idea is talking about, let's turn the advertisement off. We don't need that. And sometimes you need a lot of room. And if you don't have a lot of hard drive space, what's using up the room? And WinDirStat is a free tool, and they say donations accepted, that scans your drive, explains where all your storage is being consumed with some of the gorgeous data visualization, separating the culprits into different blocks and providing a quick at-a-glance picture of it and a listing. And so we're going to take a look at that, but what I want to do is go to the next link that I have. This is the link to get the program. You can download it from here. You download, and then once you download it, let's go ahead. It actually doesn't have to be installed, and so it isn't. So I'm trying to think how I can get it back here quickly and easily. I think what I'll do is go to View. Notice that none of my icons are showing, and that is because in the View I've got the icons turned off. I'm going to find WinDirStat. So that's why I don't like to have this on. It is confusing because I have so much on here. Well, let's go ahead and just shut this off. I'll show you the easy way to find something. When you can't, you just type in WinDirstat under My Stuff. apps, this device. It's right here. I guess I did install it. Okay, it comes up and it shows that I have a C drive, a D drive, and an N drive. N drive is something out on the, it's a nuance, it's a cloud. Why it shows, I don't know, but it does. I'm just going to say all local drives. I guess it just shows those anyway. And we just want to do the two that are highlighted, and I'm going to say OK. I'm sorry, I don't think I can make that bigger. But you can see that it's going out and it's scanning both the drives, the C drive and the D drive. It just takes a couple of seconds. Depending on how large your drive is, how many files you have, you can see that I've got lots of files, lots of items, lots of subdirectories. I don't have a lot of storage on the C drive. The C drive is an SSD drive. The D drive is a combination SSD and a 1 terabyte hard drive. So I try to keep the SSD card uncluttered. I have, although programs get installed on my C drive, the D drive, I try to keep all of my data there, but some programs insist on putting it on C. And so we got to see it's taking it's getting there. It's while it's doing that, what it's going to do, it's going to give me a representation of what's on my drive, where everything is, by size, by type, and taking longer than I expected, of course. So while it's doing that, let's go back to the listing. This is what it's going to look like when it's done. Let's see if I can make that larger. That's what it's going to look like, and we'll take a look here in just a few seconds, see if it's how it's coming. We got so much going here, it's taking a little bit longer because we're online. So I'm not going to spend more time on this. So here we go. It's going to give it. There we go. There's the representation, and it shows. And then so if I move my mouse over a particular area, it actually will tell me what that file is. And I can see that I've got a whole bunch of videos here that I probably can delete. These are all on the C drive. They're all purple. So I have quite a bit. Right here, I've got 73 gigabytes of videos in that one folder that I should be able to delete. It's stuff that I don't need anymore. And so that will certainly free up a lot of space on my drive. So that's WinDirStat, a program good to have in your arsenal to get an idea what's on your drive. And as I can see, as I go out here and just take a look at, let's see now, let's do this. And here now, let's see. I clicked on the wrong button. This is the button I want. And then take a look at my C drive. I have only got 37 gigabytes, 34 gigabytes free out of, let's see, I've got 158 used. It's about it's a 220 gigabyte SSD card. SSD drive. And so out of 193 gigs, I've only got 35 free. And what did I say? It was around 60 gigs I can delete just by deleting some video files. And that'll free up a lot of space there. My D drive is not in too bad a shape. And I want to go to Properties in the D. And then go to Properties. That's a terabyte, 931 gigabytes. And I still have over half of that free. So I'm not in too bad a shape on that drive. So I could copy those. If I wanted to keep those files, I could copy them over to the D drive. And what I've done on my D drive is, you'll notice on my D drive, I have some, that's where my download folder is, and my documents folder is located there, my default one. But over on the C drive, under users, there's also a download folder and a document folder, but the document folder only has about 4 files in it that different programs have used by default, but I try to keep them off of the C drive and put them on my D drive because I have more room there. Okay, the next item is 7 Windows taskbar tricks. And these are some things that you can do with the taskbar. The first one is that, come on, still loading. One thing I don't like about PC World, they start out with some videos and they start running. So if you start hearing some audio that might be from that, you may not hear it, I don't know. But you can put a program on the taskbar permanently. Notice how many I have down at the bottom on my taskbar. The ones with underlines mean they're open, but I also keep files. So like here's Chrome, and if I right mouse click, I can tell it unpin it from the taskbar, and it no longer will be on there. But items that are on your taskbar, you can click once and they open. If they're on an icon on your desktop, or if they're in the you've got to click on them twice, or they could be in your start menu. They might be here. That you can click once, but if you have to go out to all apps and then go looking for them, in the case where I've got a lot of programs on this computer, it could take me a while to locate it. So if it's something that I open a lot and use a lot, I want to have it one button available down on the taskbar at the bottom. You can use the keyboard. Press the Win key 1 for the first program. So if I click on Win key and 1, it will open the first item. Win key 2 and the Windows key. That's the Windows key, the one that's got the little Windows icon on the keypad. And then the number 2 at the same time. Now, if you get past 9, it doesn't work. You can't do a 10, because when you do 1, it'll open up 1, 0. It'll open up the 1 and then 0. So if you've got a lot of them there, make sure you put them in the order that you want. And that's one thing that you can do is, let's see, I think it does tell you here, but let's come back up and I could move this one just by sliding it across the bottom. Hopefully you can see it on the screen, but I just moved it where it was away from that, or I can move it with the other browsers and have it right here. So you can move things back and forth in your taskbar unless you lock the taskbar. If you lock it, then try to move something, it still does. Okay, guess that doesn't work anymore. That works for some things, but it doesn't work for that. Okay, so I just learned something. You can open recently used data. So right click on the taskbar, and there's a good chance you'll find a jump list of all things you've opened. So if we right mouse click here, there's Task Manager, Properties. Let's see, right click the taskbar icon. Well, oh, let's see here. Right click and right click. You can do some things here next to the icon. You can change a program's property from the taskbar. You can launch a program with administrator privileges, and you can easily access folders and subfolders. And so that's that item, and then the final item on my list today, and our timing is just about right. There's 8 annoying Windows 10 issues and how to fix them. Update a stuck downloading or won't install, and it tells you how to go about doing that. Like, you just follow the directions. The battery draining too quickly. Some ideas how to stop that from happening. That's if you have a laptop. I don't have a laptop, so I don't have that problem on this computer. On my laptop, I do. The default app choices have changed. When you install a new program, sometimes it changes that. So to change, it's easy to change the default apps, and you do that in the settings. I think this is just another article it's going to show here. How to change the default apps and settings. We're going to come back to, let's see, which one's the active one. We'll come back here. Okay. Come back again. So if you want to change your default, you're going to go to System and then Default Apps. So let's go ahead and minimize this for a second. We can close this up now. I think you've seen that. I'm going to come here, go to Settings. We're going to go to Apps, Default Apps, and then that's the default email app, and so on. And then you can choose the default apps by file type, choose the default apps by protocol. So let's do by file type. So you can look at all the different file types and see what the default items are, and you can change any of those that you want. So right now, this, I'm not sure what that, if I click on this, okay, it did come up with a window and then it went away. Choose a default. So there is something there, and it gives you the list of what you can choose. So that's how you change your default. One of the ways you can change your default anyway. Wi-Fi not connection not discoverable. This tells you how to go about doing that, and it's actually this is probably more than most of you want to get into. And if your touchpad's not working, some ways to make it work. And if you can't install or update your store apps, and then Microsoft Office files won't open, it tells you how to fix that as well. Flickering or flashing screen. And then they want to know how you solve problems. So that's all of the items for today. Again, all of those are located at the Hewie.net at the at my website, which is Hewie.net, Hewie's Views and Reviews, under WinSIG, under Meeting Notes, and they are there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I can remember where that is. It's here. And bring back the big